Today we're going to be learning about factorizing algebraic expressions involving mixed factorization. First, I want to remind you about the different types of factorization that we have learned. The first one was common factors. Remember, when you have a common factor, you take the common factor out by writing the highest common factor down, and then in brackets you write down what's left from each term after you divide it by that highest common factor. The next type of factorization was difference of two squares. So when you have difference of two squares, you identify it by seeing that there are two terms with a minus in between, and both of the terms must be perfect squares. When you factorize it, you're going to write it as a product of two brackets. The first term in each bracket is the square root of the first term of the expression. The second term in each bracket is the square root of the second term in the expression, and then one bracket gets a plus and the other one gets a minus. Then we also learned how to factorize a trinomial. Okay, so we learned about trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. We said that when we factorize it, first we have to make sure that it's in the correct order. It has to be in this order, the standard form. And then we're going to write it as a product of two brackets again, just like we did for the difference of two squares. The first term is going to be the square root of the first term of our trinomial, and then the second term in each bracket is going to be a factor pair that we get from the last term over here, and we have to pay attention to what happens with the signs in these two brackets over here as well to find out if it's going to be pluses or minuses and so on. Okay, so let's go and have a look at what we do, how we factorize expressions that have mixed factorization. So the first thing you're always going to do is you're going to look for a common factor. That's the first step when you're factorizing, is you check for a common factor. Okay, if there is a common factor, you need to factor it out first. Okay, then once you have taken out your common factor, if there was one, you look to see what's left inside the brackets. You see if it is difference of two squares or if it is a trinomial, and you factorize it accordingly. Once you have done that, you then check each bracket again to see if it can be factorized further. You simplify inside the bracket if you need to, and you factorize further if you need to as well. Okay, let's go and have a look at our first example for today. Okay, so in this example over here, we've got 5x squared minus 45. So let's go and have a look at how we would factorize this expression. So first of all, I look and see if I've got a common factor. In this example over here, I have got a common factor. 5 is a common factor. 5 goes into this and 5 goes into that. So my highest common factor is 5. I take it out like this and I write down what's left inside brackets. So 5x squared divided by 5 is x squared. And then minus 45 divided by 5 is 9. Okay, so now I've taken out my common factor. Now I look and see inside the brackets, what else can I do? Is there anything else that I can do? So I look and see I've got two terms. X squared is a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square, and I'm subtracting them. That means that I can factorize this further because this is difference of two squares. So now the 5 is not going to change. I keep on bringing it down. As long as I carry on factorizing, anything that I can't factorize, I just bring down and I carry on writing. So I'm going to write that 5 down, and then I'm going to factorize the x squared minus 9 by putting down two sets of brackets. And then I factorize my trinomial, or my difference of two squares like normal. So the square root of x squared is going to be the first term. So it's going to be x and x. And then the square root of 9 is the second term in each bracket. So that's going to be 3 and 3. And then because it's difference of two squares, one is going to get a plus and the other one is going to get a minus. Now you check again. Can you do anything else? I can't do anything with a 5. X plus 3 is factorized as far as possible, and x minus 3 is also factorized as far as possible. So I'm done with that question. Okay, let's go into another example. So in this example, I've got 3x to the power of 4 plus 3x squared minus 60. Okay, so let's go through this question and see how you should do it. Right, so we're going to start off by looking for a common factor. So first I look and see each term has got 3, 3, and then a multiple of 3 over here. So I've got a common factor of 3, which I'm going to take out. Then inside my brackets, I'm going to have 3x to the power of 4 divided by 3, which is x to the power of 4. Then plus 3x squared divided by 3 gives me x squared. and then minus 60 divided by 3 is 20. Okay, so now I have factorized by taking out a common factor. The next thing I need to do is look inside the brackets and see what I can do here. This is a trinomial. Okay, so I'm going to factorize this by splitting it up into two brackets like that. The first term in each bracket is going to be the square root of x to the power of 4. So that's going to be x squared and x squared. Then I need to look at the factors of 20 and see which factors I can subtract to get 1. Okay, so I have the factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So the factors that I can subtract to get 1 are going to be 4 and 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. So I'm going to have 5 in one bracket and 4 in the other bracket. Okay, the bigger number is going to get the sign of the middle term because that's negative. The two signs are going to be different, and the bigger one gets the sign of the middle term. So the 5 is going to get the plus, and the 4 is going to get a minus. Now I look and see, can I do anything else? Okay, so obviously the 3 can't change. The x squared plus 5 can't be factorized because that's a plus, and the 5 isn't a perfect square. But this one over here, I've got x squared, and I've got 4. Those are both perfect squares, and I'm subtracting, so this is difference of 2 squares. So I can factorize this further. So I need to just bring everything else down. They don't change, so the 3 doesn't change. The x squared plus 5 doesn't change. I just mustn't forget to write them down. And then I'm going to go and put down 2 new sets of brackets for factorizing that x squared minus 4. Okay, so the square root of x squared is x. That goes into both sets of brackets. And then the square root of the 4 is 2. That goes into both sets of brackets. And then one gets a plus and the other one gets a minus. And now if you check, there's nothing else that we can do. So we're finished with that question. So that's what we should get for that question. Right, now I'm going to give you a few that you're going to do for yourself. The first one you're going to do is x cubed plus 5x squared minus 24x. You need to factorize as far as possible. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do this example. Okay, so let's go through that example. So the first thing you're going to do is look and see if there is a common factor. So in this example, I have got a common factor of x. So if I take that x out, I'm left with x squared plus 5x minus 24. So now in the brackets here, I've now got a trinomial. So I'm going to go and factorize that trinomial. So I get 2 sets of brackets. The first term in each bracket is going to be x, the square root of that x squared. And then I'm going to use the factor pairs for 24. So I'm looking at 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. I need to find the pair that's going to subtract, because that's a minus, to give me 5. Okay, so 24 minus 1 doesn't give me 5. 12 minus 2 doesn't give me 5. 8 minus 3 does give me 5. So this is the pair that I'm using. 8 minus 3. So I've got over here 8 and 3. Okay, now the bigger one must get the sign of the middle term. Because it's a negative, the last term over here is negative, the two signs must be different. So the bigger one gets the sign of the middle term. So the 8 is going to get the plus, and then the 3 is going to get a minus. So that's what you should have got for that question. You can't factorize that any further. Right, let's go on to question B. We've got 75a cubed times a minus 5 plus 3a times 5 minus a. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this question as well. Okay, so let's go through that example. So first of all, I need to make sure that these two brackets are the same as each other. So at the moment they're not the same, but they look very similar. I've got a minus 5 and 5 minus a. The a and the 5 look the same. They just switched around. But because it's a minus, I can't just swap them. In order to swap them, I have to multiply the term by negative 1. So it's going to be 75 a cubed, a minus 5, and then I multiply this term by negative 1. That gives me minus 3a, and then I can write a minus 5. So now, when I take out my common factor, I can take out those brackets as a common factor. So I've got 75 and 3. 3 is a common factor because 3 goes into 75 and it goes into 3, so I have 3 over there. Then a cubed and a, I've got a common factor of a, and then I also have a common factor of a minus 5. Okay, so remember, when you're looking for your common factor, you first look at the numbers, you see what is the highest common factor for the numbers, and you write that down. Then you look at your variables. If you've got the same variable in both terms or all the terms, then you take the lowest exponent for that variable. So in this case, the lowest exponent was 1, so I put a to the power of 1 in my common factor here. And then you look at your brackets, and if you've got a common bracket, then that goes into your highest common factor as well. Right, so now I've got my highest common factor. Now I'm going to see what's left. So the first term, I'm going to divide 75 by 3, that gives me 25. A cubed divided by a is a squared. And then the a minus 5 cancels with the a minus 5. So I just have 25a squared from that first term. Then from the second term, I have, it's first a negative divided by a positive is negative. 3 divided by 3 is 1. A divided by a is 1. And a minus 5 divided by a minus 5 is 1 as well. It all just cancels. So that gives me 1 over there. Okay, so now I look and see, can I do anything else with any of these brackets? The 3a isn't going to change. The a minus 5 can't change either, but this over here, the 25a squared minus 1, I can factorize further because there are two terms, there's a minus, and both of those terms are perfect squares. So I'm going to open two new sets of brackets here. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of a squared is a. And then the square root of 1 is 1, like that. So I've got 5a and 1 in each bracket over there. One bracket gets a plus and the other one gets a minus. Now if I check everything, I can't factorize any further. So I'm now finished with that question. So that's what we should have got for question B. Right, let's go on to question C. Here you've got q to the power of 4 minus 2q squared minus 8. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this question as well. Okay, so let's go through that question. Right, so we start off by checking to see if there's a common factor. Now in this example, there isn't a common factor, so I go on to the next thing, which is, this looks like a trinomial. I need to just check that everything is in the correct order and that it really is a trinomial that can be factorized. So I've got three terms. The first term is to the power of 4. The second term is the same variable to the power of 2. So this exponent is double that exponent, so that's good. And then I've got a constant over here. So this is a trinomial that I can factorize. So I'm going to go and put down my two sets of brackets. And the first term in each bracket is going to be q squared. Right, now I need to get the factors of 8. So I've got 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. I need to choose the factors that I can subtract, because this is a minus over here. I need to subtract the factors to get 2 over here. So I can't subtract 8 and 1 to get 2, but I can subtract 4 and 2 to get 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I put 4 in the one bracket and I put 2 in the other bracket. Okay, then my signs. The bigger number is going to get the sign of the middle term. Because it's negative, they're going to be different signs. So I have 4, which is bigger, and is going to get the minus, and then the 2 is going to get a plus. Now I need to check and see if I can factorize anything here further. Okay, now I can. I can't factorize this one further, but I can factorize this one further over here. So this bracket I'm going to split up into 2 new brackets. And then I also need to still write down what's left. So I'm going to put over here the q squared plus 2 over there as well. Okay, so now the q squared minus 4. When I factorize it, difference of 2 squares, I'm going to square root the q squared, giving me q in each bracket. I square root the 4, giving me 2 in each bracket, and then I get a plus and a minus. So that's what you should have got for that question. Q plus 2, q minus 2, and q squared plus 2. Doesn't matter what order those brackets are in, so long as you have all 3 of them. Okay, so that's what you should have got for question C. Let's go on to question D. Here you've got 25 x squared minus 3 in brackets squared plus 50 x squared minus 3. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to factorize this question. Okay, so let's go through that question. So the first thing you have to do is find your highest common factor. Okay, so over here I've got 25 and 50. So I've got a common factor of 25. Then I also have a common factor of the brackets. So I'm going to take out x squared minus 3 as a common factor. Now, because this one over here is squared, I'm still going to end up with a bracket inside. So I'm going to have square brackets now. And then 25 divided by 25 cancels. But x squared minus 3 squared divided by x squared minus 3 is going to leave a bracket x squared minus 3. Okay. Then over here, 50 divided by 25 is 2. So I've got plus 2. And then the x squared minus 3 is going to cancel. So I'm just left with that plus 2 from that term over there. So now let's go and simplify what we've got inside here. So I've got 25 x squared minus 3. And then over here, this is not going to change because there's nothing in front of the bracket to multiply in. So I can just drop those brackets. So it's x squared minus 3 plus 2. Now I'm going to go and simplify that over there. And that gives me x squared minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1. Now let's see what else we can do. Okay, so the 25 obviously isn't going to change. The x squared minus 3, I can't factorize further because the 3 isn't a perfect square. So it's going to stay the same. But this one over here, the x squared minus 1, I can factorize further because x squared is a perfect square, the 1 is a perfect square, and I'm subtracting. So it's difference of 2 squares. So this is going to stay 25. This is going to stay the same, x squared minus 3. But here I get two new sets of brackets. X squared is going to be factorized into here. So I've got x and x. And then the minus 1 is going to be 1 over there and 1 over there. 1 gets a plus and 1 gets a minus. So that's what you should have got for question D. Right, now we're going to go on to question E. Here we've got e to the power of 4 minus 13e squared plus 36. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this question. Okay, so let's go through that question and see what you should have got. Right, so first of all, there's no common factor here. So I'm going to go straight ahead and factorize the trinomial that is here. So I open my two sets of brackets. The square root of e to the power of 4 is e squared. So that's going to be the first term in each bracket. Then my factors of 36 are 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, and 4 and 9. I need a factor pair that I can add to get 13. The pair that I can add to get 13 is 4 and 9. Okay, so I'm going to have 4 in one bracket and 9 in the other bracket. Now, because this is a plus, I'm going to have the same sign in both brackets, and I'm going to be using the sign from the middle term, which is negative. So it's going to be minus and minus. So I've got e squared minus 4 and e squared minus 9. Now you should have seen that both of those are difference of 2 squares. So we're going to go and factorize both of those brackets further. So for the e squared minus 4, I have two new brackets. That gives me e, and then the square root of 4 is 2, and 1 gets a plus and 1 gets a minus. Then e squared minus 9 is also going to get two new sets of brackets. Again, I have e and e, but then the square root of 9 is 3. So I've got 3 and 3, 1 gets a plus and 1 gets a minus. And that's what you should have got for question E. Right, let's go on to question F. Here you've got 3x to the power of 4y minus 3y times 6 plus 5x in brackets squared. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to factorize this. Okay, so let's go through that question. Right, so first of all, we're going to look for a common factor. Now, you should have found that you had a common factor here of 3y. Okay, now when I divide by 3y, I'm left with x to the power of 4 in the first term, and then minus this bracket. So I'm actually going to put square brackets here rather. Okay, minus the bracket 6 plus 5x squared. Like that. Okay. Now I'm not going to multiply this out. I'm going to look at what I've got over here. I've got x to the power of 4, which is a perfect square, minus a bracket squared, which is a perfect square. So inside the brackets here, I've got difference of 2 squares. Okay, so I'm going to go and factorize the difference of 2 squares there. So I've got 3y and then x squared and x squared in 2 new sets of brackets. Then I'm going to square root that bracket squared, which gives me just the bracket. So it's going to be 6 plus 5x and 6 plus 5x. And don't forget to put those in brackets. Keep them in brackets. And then one gets a plus and one gets a minus. Then I'm going to go and multiply out what I've got inside those brackets. Okay, so I've got over here 3y, then x squared plus 6 plus 5x, then x squared minus 6 minus 5x. Now, if you didn't put the brackets there and you just went straight ahead to this, you would have ended up with minus 6 plus 5x. So you would have had a problem here. Okay, now we need to look inside each of these and see if we can factorize these trinomials that have popped up. But first, I need to make sure that the trinomials are in the correct order. So I'm going to switch them around. So 3y, x squared plus 5x plus 6. It has to be in that order. And then this one as well, x squared minus 5x minus 6. Okay, and now I'm going to go and factorize these trinomials. So I've got 3y and then x squared plus 5x plus 6. The factors of 6 are 6 times 1 or 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. So for this trinomial, I'm going to be adding the factors, because that's a plus, to get 5. So I'm going to be using the 2 and the 3 over there. Okay, so I've got x and 2, x and 3. Now, because this is a plus, the 2 signs are going to be the same as that middle term. So that's going to be plus and plus. Now, over here, I need to subtract the factors of 6 to get 5. So for this one, I'm going to be using the other factor pair, which is the 1 and the 6 over there. Okay, so I'm going to have over here x and 1, x and 6. Now, because this is a minus, I am going to give the bigger sign, or give the bigger number, that middle sign. So because the middle sign is negative, the bigger number is going to be negative, and this is going to be positive. Okay, so that's what you should have got for that question over there. Right, now we're going to go on to the last one for today, which is question G. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to factorize this as far as possible. Okay, so let's go through that question. So first of all, you had to take out a common factor, which was 3. So I have 3, and then p to the power of 8 plus 4 p to the power of 4 q to the power of 4 minus 5 q to the power of 8 left in my brackets over there. Okay, so that was the first step, was taking out that common factor of 3. Then I've got a trinomial here. Now for my trinomial, I need to factorize using the factors of 5 that I must subtract to get 4. Okay, but first let's just go and put down our brackets. So remember, we're going to put the first term in each bracket is going to be the square root of p to the power of 8. So that's p to the power of 4. And now because I've got q to the power of 8 here as well, and q to the power of 4 in the middle, I need to have q to the power of 4 as well for my second term there. Okay, now I'm going to go and use the factors of 5. I'm going to subtract them to get 4. So my factors of 5 are just 1 and 5. There aren't any other options. So 5 minus 1 does give me 4. So that's going to be 5. And 1 q to the power of 4, which I'm not going to write the 1 because I don't need to, because q to the power of 4 is the same as 1 q to the power of 4. And then I need to go and put in my signs. Now the bigger number, which is the 5, must get the middle sign. So that's going to be plus 5q to the power of 4 and then minus over there. Now I need to check that I factorize everything as far as possible. I can't obviously do anything else with a 3. This bracket over here, I can't go any further because there's a plus. But this one, I've got p to the power of 4 minus q to the power of 4. They're both perfect squares and it's a minus. So I've got difference of 2 squares here. So I'm going to go and factorize this further. So that's going to be 3 p to the power of 4 plus 5 q to the power of 4. Don't forget to bring down the things that you can't factorize further. You still have to write them. Then I'm going to open 2 new sets of brackets for factorizing this difference of 2 squares over here. So the square root of p to the power of 4 is p to the power of 2, and that goes into both brackets. The square root of q to the power of 4 is q to the power of 2, and that also goes into both brackets. And one gets a plus and the other one gets a minus. Now if you check again, I still can't do anything else with this. I can't do anything else with that. I can't do anything else with this either because there's a plus. But I can factorize this one further again because it is still a difference of 2 squares. That's a perfect square, that's a perfect square, and I'm subtracting them. So I'm going to go and do that again. So these are still going to stay as they are. So I've got 3 p to the power of 4 plus 5 q to the power of 4. Then p squared plus q squared. And now I'm going to open 2 new sets of brackets over here. So I've got like that. The square root of p squared is p, and that goes into both. The square root of q squared is q, and that goes into both. And one gets a plus and one gets a minus. And now I can't factorize any further. So that's what you should have got for question G. And that is how we factorize algebraic expressions with mixed factorization. Now that we've learned the concepts in this lesson, it's important to practice, practice, practice. If you haven't already got the worksheet that goes with this video, you can find it by clicking on the link in the description below. The worksheet comes with an extra exercise full of questions for you to work on to master the concepts covered in this lesson. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button so that others can benefit from it too. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you can easily find my other lessons, and hit the bell so that you will get notified about lessons as I upload them.